brought back to the board at a following meeting. We're going to go right into public comment on that agenda item. If you'd like to make a public comment on the agenda item, please step up to the podium and state your name if you'd like. See, this is going to be a fast meeting. Seeing no public comment, we will close that item. And then we will move on with consent. Would anybody on the board like to pull anything from consent?
I'd like to pull tab 6.
All right, we pull tab 6. And would anybody on staff like to pull anything from consent?
No.
Anyone from the public like to pull from consent? Okay, seeing none, we will go into discussion on, oh, actually, before we do that, can I get a motion for items 1 through 5?
So moved.
Give it a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Tab 6, Kat, let us know what you're thinking.
I have a lot of questions about tab 6. I'm really uncomfortable with how this came to us in consent. And while I recognize that the board of directors may at its discretion award a year-end cash bonus to district employees, I feel like we should be asked instead of told. I think that's something that probably should have come to the board September, October, discussed, is this something you want to do? This is what I'm thinking. So I feel like the process is really kind of backwards here. I guess I don't really understand the performance award piece of it. My understanding is that the GM has discretion to award performance bonuses based on performance. And that performance is tied into TrackStar and actual performance. Is this performance award that's given to everyone, is that tied into TrackStar?
It is not. It's probably more closely associated with our strategic plan goals overall as an organization and how we're performing. And I would say it's also tied to traditionally the organization around the holidays has bought a company-wide gift for all the employees, or
Right.
give out gift cards, or those type of things. I think in a past year, the board bought electric mountain bikes for the entire staff. In lieu of spending airport resources on a holiday type end of year gift for the employees that they may or may not use, or a gift card they may or not be interested in for a particular activity, I was making the recommendation to take that dollar value essentially and recognize the great performance of the whole team throughout the whole year. And I'm sorry if it came across as I meant it as a request for the board to consider this as a cash performance award for how great year we've had to all employees, instead of buying them stuff to give to them, another jacket or another thing, right?
I get that. I guess, I feel more comfortable if it was called that, a Christmas present or end of year cash bonus or whatever. I don't think we've typically spent this much money on Christmas gifts. I think the electric bike was in the budget. It was approved by the board, and it was part of the sustainability plan. So I think it did happen around January, maybe. I went back and tried to find it somewhere, but I think, last year I think it was a gift card and a logo Bluetooth speaker or something, which is probably less than half of the $500. And it does concern me that one of the rationales is being in the black, $2 million, just because we're not a profit-sharing company. Most of us were on the board when we were investigated by the Placer County grand jury and for misuse of public funds. And, you know, this is the kind of thing that they look at all the time. So it just doesn't feel quite right to me. And it has nothing to do with performance. It has nothing to do with staff. I think staff is great. I just think that this sets a precedent that, you know, if Tom Meadows was still coming to these meetings, I think we would be hearing from the Placer County grand jury. So it doesn't sit quite right with me for all those reasons.
Do you, Teresa, have any questions or comments?
I agree with everything you said. I don't want it to be interpreted as we don't appreciate the staff, and I'm pretty sure that the budget does include performance bonuses at the GM's discretion,
Yeah,
tied to Trackstar and,
tied to tracks.
right.
Yeah, it has in the past at least.
I'm certain it still is in the budget, correct?
There's employee relations funding in the budget that we would draw performance bonuses out of, yes.
Okay.
This would come out of that pot of money, right?
Mary?
The bikes were brought before the board. They were $1,600 a piece, and we all thought that was a bit much, but we did it. And in terms of, you know, as I understand this, a gift card could have been given instead of cash. But the fact is, it was end of the year, and I've been recently reading about peanut butter performance bonuses, where everybody just gets the same thing. And I don't know if anybody else has seen that in Axios or 1440. This is Yahoo. They're all talking about these type of things, where it's just, here you go, here's a holiday gift. And that it could have been done through gift cards and we wouldn't even be talking about it. And I have no problem with it.
I have a follow-up question. Is it 500 through payroll?
Yes, net 500. So
Net?
Yes.
So some who have different tax brackets get more or less.
They would get $500 a piece.
They would net 500,
Yes,
but
right.
this top line is not the same.
It should be the same for everybody.
Well, it can't be both, because my tax bracket's different than yours. So if the top line's 500, I'll get 250, and you might get 350.
I don't see her here. The intent was to give each employee, full-time employee, $500 net. So if there's a slightly different tax consideration for each of the $500 net, yes, that would be absorbed in the total cost of the $13,000 and change that's in the staff report.
And PERSable,
Not PERSable.
I would say it should be the same on the top line for everyone, but that's just me.
I just wanted to confirm, just for clarity, if this was a $500 widget, it was within your authority to purchase them and distribute them to staff without bringing this to the board. It's only because it's a cash gift that the board is weighing in on this. Is that correct?
Yes, per board policy, it is specifically outlined for a company-wide cash performance award at board's discretion, not the general manager's discretion. If I do it individually for individuals, that's my discretion. If it is a gift card, that's my discretion. If it is a widget, that is general manager's discretion also.
And just as reference, the carve out in the policy is up on the screen in the italicized language. It is, as Rob mentioned, very specific to a end of year bonus for employees.
Okay, that's it for me. Do you have you have a question there?
Sure. It sounds like there's some discrepancy on this getting tracked in Trackstar versus a more broad swath.
Yeah, this would not
Is
be-
it possible that this could be, because I'm hearing you say, look, there's sort of a power of the collective performance. That's why it was sort of named a performance bonus. It's not necessarily tied to specific line items that might show up in Trackstar, but teams doing team play really well. Am I hearing that from you
Yes,
correctly?
TrackStar is our internal performance evaluation system. It's meant to track individual performance. There's not a similar methodology in that TrackStar system for company-wide performance. So I'm treating this separately, as the company has done really well throughout the year with a major renovation project in our ramp, $5.5 million, shuffling aircraft all over to accommodate that construction all summer long. We've had the tail end of the hangar reconstruction. We've had great positive performance in our expenses, keeping those really low. There are a number of items outlined here that I think are the highlights that really recognizes the years-long hard work of the entire team that I would like to recognize.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing you say is that the mechanics of TrackStar aren't really supportive of taking that type of action.
They're not for company-wide.
And simultaneously, Kat, your concern is around the mechanics of how this is being done, which I hear you on.
Yeah.
Can we
It would be
resolve
nice to
this
be
in a way moving forward where we
asked.
can?
Yeah, I think if it comes up again next year, the board should be talking about it in the fall.
Not on consent.
Yeah, not on consent.
Yeah, that would be ideal. I agree. What Happy have done earlier, I think through a series of conversations with the employee teams, I surveyed the population, and it was my strong sense that employees would prefer to have a cash award of performance versus another thing, because they all have different requirements of ideally bills they've got to pay or things they want to buy or holiday travel, et cetera. So it was overwhelming feedback from the team at large that they value this type of recognition more than another hat or a coat or a speaker. Right.
Do we have any public comment on this? Okay, seeing no, do we have a motion on this?
Not yet, but I have a statement, which it
Okay.
seems like, I mean, maybe we consider approving this with the direction to change the mechanics of it for future years, where we intend in the fall to have a board level discussion about team-wide performance bonuses, something to that effect.
Yeah.
Are you saying in terms of bringing this policy back for review and change, or just if it's a cash bonus, that it comes to the board?
I guess that's up for discussion. I'm trying to solve.
If it's not a cash bonus, then the policy is in existence already.
Yeah.
So it's just if it's a cash bonus. Would you be comfortable with that?
I'm not suggesting changing the policy. I'm purely suggesting basically a scheduling component of, we just have this same conversation and we schedule it so that we're all on the same page of having this conversation in September.
Right. And I'm happy to ensure this happens no later than the last board meeting of the year,
Sure.
going forward, right?
Yep.
Which is typically in November, December,
December, yeah.
at the latest.
I'm uncomfortable with the random number. I think it should be the same number. Make it 600 if you want a net 5, but it should be the same for everyone.
Or I agree with you in terms of not net, it's a bonus, it's a number. And it's not personal.
Right.
I don't really have thoughts particularly on
I can get behind that as well.
on it, but it's fine.
So are we saying make it 600?
Is that the number?
And
Sure.
then
No, we're saying, I think what we're saying is figure out a number, bring it to us in October, and,
Well, that's for future years, but what
For
about right
future-
now?
oh, for this one?
Right now, this is still relevant for 2025.
I guess if would it have to be 600 to make it net 500?
For some, and for others, it would have to be more, and others it would be less, so.
We'd have to go through an employee-by-employee computation of what
Yeah.
the exact number would be. It would be fairly involved. It's
Just
possible to do. My thought was the net aspect,
Doing it all.
the take-home would be the same for everybody.
Hearing where we're at, do you have a recommendation on that number if we were to try to make a decision for efficiency's sake right now?
I would not have a scientific number at this point.
I
Right.
don't expect
Yeah.
one. Yes.
Broadly $600, yes.
There's your motion.
But he can't make it. Do I have a motion from any of us?
You want to make it, or I can make it?
Go for it.
All right. Get the language. I motion to approve a $600 budget for each employee for the year, fiscal year 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries. Thank you. Item number 7, the annual Board of Directors training presented by District Council Josh Nelson of BBK.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, President Diamond. So as the board will remember, this is kind of an annual thing that we started doing a couple of years ago, where we just try to take a little bit of time at the first meeting of the calendar year and just talk about a topic. So I put together a couple of slides. And what I thought we could focus on this year is first kind of an overview of the training that's required for the board. There's actually been some changes to that this year, so I think it's a good reminder. Sorry, go back to the last slide, please. Yeah, perfect. And then I also wanted to hit, under the Brown Act, the different ways that the directors can attend board meetings. Also some changes there. You talked about those changes in more detail a couple of months ago at the end of last year when we talked about SB 707. But I just wanted to kind of highlight that, and you'll see the chart that we've seen in the past with the updates. So next slide, please. Next slide. All right, so I think really there are 3 trainings that you need to have under the law to be a director of the airport district, and director or council member of any local agency in California. The first is AB 1234, and that's the 2 hours ethics training. The second is sexual harassment avoidance training. And then the third is the new one for this year, and that's SB 827, fiscal and financial training. Next slide, please. So for each of these trainings, we'll talk about kind of the who, the what, the when, and the why. So for ethics, the who includes the board of directors, and effective this year, that has been expanded to include all department heads or similar administrative officers. So historically, staff was not required to take AB 1234 ethics training, although by practice they did, and it was the best practice. Now department heads are legally required to take that training. So what it is, as the name suggests, it's training in the ethics law that apply to local agencies. And the language below, those 4 numbers are actually from the law itself, very specific as to what the curriculum needs to cover. And just briefly to run through them, the first are laws related to personal financial gain, which is our conflict of interest things like the Political Reform Act or Government Code Section 1090. The second is laws related to perks of office. So this is gifts and travel, restrictions on the use of public resources for personal or political purposes, the prohibition on the district providing a gift of public funds, mass mailer restrictions. You'll remember those are restrictions on the district's ability to pay for tangible mailers that go out that feature elected officials in certain ways. And then lastly, there's a prohibition in the California Constitution against elected officials receiving free or discounted transportation from transportation companies. And then the third tranche of areas we cover is transparency, and that's Brown Act, Public Records Act, and Form 700s. And then the last is laws related to fair process, and this is common law bias, due process, incompatible offices, incompatible activities, competitive bidding for public works, and anti-nepotism type issues. The training itself, as I mentioned a couple slides ago, is 2 hours. Given the amount of information we're required to cover, it is inherently, as you'll know, a very high-level overview. And we're not able to spend a ton of time getting into the details of any of those topics, just given time constraints. When directors are required to take that training, within 6 months of taking office, and then every 2 years thereafter. And then on the why, and this is just kind of my opinion, I think AB 1234 is helpful because it provides you with an overview, kind of a table of contents of the issues that can come up as you're making these decisions and the laws you're required to. But as I mentioned, we're not able to really get into detail in any of the topics, so it's not intended to be sort of an exhaustive overview. I think the hope would be after you take that training, you know what questions to ask when an issue comes up and when to either talk to myself or the Fair Political Practices Commission, the FPPC, which can help with a lot of the conflict of interest issues. Next slide. The second training is the sexual harassment avoidance training. There is no bill associated with this one because there actually are a whole bunch of bills. There's a law that specifically requires elected officials like yourself to receive this training. In addition, all California employers over a certain threshold are required to have their supervisors, which would include yourselves, take this training. So, not a public agency specific requirement. So for this one, who takes it? Although as I mentioned, staff is required to take this training. Supervisors take the same training you do. Non-supervisors take a slightly shorter version. What is it? It's a training to talk about ways to avoid harassment in the workplace and to provide general education. It includes information and practical guidance regarding federal and state requirements in those areas. When similar to, and this is also a 2-hour training, when similar to AB 1234, 6 months after taking office and then every 2 years thereafter. Why? Here, one, to make sure you're aware of the requirements necessary to comply with employment laws, and then 2, to make sure that we're providing an appropriate workforce for all of our great staff. Next slide, please. And then the new one, and I apologize for the size of the font. There's a lot to cover here. So this is SB 827, fiscal and financial training. Who's required to take this? And we'll spend a little bit of time going through these. The first, the board of directors. The second, anyone you appoint who, as part of their official duties, makes decisions or recommendations regarding financial administration, budgeting, or the use of public resources. In our case, given the way we're structured, that's essentially your general manager. In addition, and separately from the second category, all local agency executives or similar administrative officers are required to take that training. And the way the law defines that, it's essentially anybody who has an independent employment agreement with some tweaks. And then lastly, anyone that that the board designates by policy to take the training. So what does it cover? So it covers first laws and principles related to financial administration and short and long-term fiscal management. Second, it talks about laws and principles related to capital financing and debt management, mechanisms for local agency revenues, pensions, and other post-employment benefits, and then the other investment issues which are discussed. And then lastly, just sort of general fiscal and financial planning principles and other relevant laws. Given the subject matter here, I think a lot of these trainings probably, because the legislators, half of them are lawyers, are lawyer trainings. This one's different. This one really looking for those financial CPA types to provide this training. Some efforts are being put in by CSDA and others as to help identify who would be the best to provide these. Provide this training, and we'll provide more information as we have better ideas as to who would be the appropriate person to provide it. When is it required? So some good news. For existing staff and the 5 of you, it is required by January 1st, 2028. So I think the legislature is recognizing it's going to take us some time to kind of get everything ready for this to be rolled out. So there's really a 2-year runway. And then once we hit that first requirement, it'll be 2 years thereafter, consistent with the other trainings. There will be a different requirement for anybody who takes office after January 1st. Those folks will have to do it 6 months after that date and then every 2 years into the future. The why on this one, the legislature had indicated when they were adopting this bill that they felt, local agency finances are becoming increasingly complicated, especially when you talk about things like pension liabilities, unfunded mandates, and OPEB, the non-pension other retiree benefits. And so the thought was that local officials would benefit from some detailed discussions of those issues. So that's all I had on the trainings, but happy to answer any questions before I jump to the Brown Act stuff.
Do we have any questions for Josh on this side?
Okay, carry on. All right, and then next slide, please. We've talked in the past about the different types of meetings we can have. So we can have what we call a traditional meeting, which is what we're having right now, right? The 5 of you are in person. We can have a traditional teleconference meeting where one of you are calling in from a public meeting location, which is listed on the agenda, and the agenda is posted at that location. In some instances, you can call in from a private remote meeting location. And that meeting location doesn't need to be listed on the agenda, but there's specific requirements that we need to meet. So rather than just kind of run through that again, I thought this year we would approach it slightly differently, and we would look at the different ways each of you can attend a meeting under the law. So next slide. So this is a chart that you've seen before, just kind of flipped along that way of looking at it. So the first is you could attend a meeting in person under the traditional requirements. So if all of you are attending a meeting that way, voice vote is allowed. So as we had earlier in the meeting, you can just all vote aye without specifically being called in a roll. There's of course no audio visual requirements for you because we're here in person. For public comment, we're required to accept public comment on agenda items and off agenda items in person, but remote public comment is not required, but we certainly can provide it as an option. Attendance, we need a quorum of you here in person. And how often can we have you attend a meeting that way? Unlimited, so there's no limitations on the number of meetings we have in that format. The second way you could attend a meeting would be what we call the traditional teleconference. The idea here is, as I mentioned, is that there's this location, but then there's also the meeting location that you're calling in from. That meeting location is actually listed on the agenda. You're required to post the agenda for 72 hours for a regular meeting or 24 for a special at that location. And if a member of the public wanted to attend, they could do so from there. In those meetings, all voting is done by roll call. Audiovisual rules. So even if you are attending through your computer by Zoom or a similar platform, you're not required to have your camera on. Audio is the only legal requirement. Public comment. So we're required to provide public comment at all of those teleconference locations. So if you're calling in from vacation in Hawaii, and somebody wants to show up at your hotel room in Maui and provide a public comment, they have the right to do so, as unlikely as that is. Similar to traditional meetings, remote or Zoom comment is not required in those instances. It's optional. We have some requirements as to where folks are calling in from for those teleconference meetings. We need a quorum of you participating from locations within the district boundaries. And that's framed very specifically for a reason. Normally that's easily satisfied because there are 3 of you physically here. But technically, we could have 3 teleconference locations in 3 different places within the district and still satisfy the requirement, as long as, again, 3 of you were calling in from locations that were posted, that were public meeting locations within our boundaries. And frequency, there's no limitation on the number of meetings or times that you call in under traditional teleconference. So the third is the private remote, and there is a change this year. And this is when you attend a meeting for just cause. And by private remote, what we mean is that there's an in-person location, and then there's the private meeting location, your house, another area that you're calling in from, and you're participating in the meeting remotely. In that instance, your private location is not listed on the agenda. Members of the public have no right to provide public comment from those areas. It's in many ways sort of like the COVID rules that we operated under during that time period. In those situations, we are required to provide a remote option for attendance by members of the public. So Zoom or a similar platform is required. like teleconference meetings, all votes need to be by roll call. And there's a special rule for participating as far as audiovisual. The law actually requires that all remote attendees have their video on during the whole meeting. So you could not participate from a private remote meeting location simply by your cell phone. You need a video component, or at least your cell phone's video on. Public comment, here we need to allow public comment from our in-person physical location. We're also required to allow Zoom public comment. That's a requirement. And then new this year, there's actually a specific obligation that there are no disruptions. So if we have any disruptions in the Zoom platform, we must immediately suspend the meeting and work to try to address those. And if we can't address those, in a worst case, we could be required to stop the meeting and cancel that. Attendance, this also has very specific requirements. We can only have one of you call in from a private remote meeting location if at least 3 of you are here physically. So based on the simple math, max, we can only ever have 2 directors participate under this under this for any meeting. In addition to that math for any individual meeting, there's also limitations on the number of times each of you can use this per year. And given the number of times that we have a regular meeting, which is once per month, you have 2 meetings per year. So any calendar year, you can do this twice. In addition, there are specific requirements you have to meet for what qualify as just cause. I won't go through those in detail, but it's things like it's a contagious illness, you're caring for a family member, you're on travel for agency or state business, you're a military reservist and you're on active duty, very specific requirements. And then the last way to attend a meeting, and this is one that has existed pursuant to an Attorney General's opinion previously and is now codified in the Brown Act, and that's to accommodate a disability. So if any director has a recognized disability, they have the ability to participate remotely in a meeting as necessary to accommodate that disability. And they can do it from any location, including a private meeting location. There's no requirement that public be admitted from the remote location. The law actually says that if you're participating for a disability accommodation, it's just like you're here in person. So technically, we probably could do voice votes, but my recommendation to the board will be if we ever utilize this, we do a roll call just as a best practice and for transparency. But technically, we probably could do a voice. Public comment, because if you're participating remotely for a disability, it's just like you're here in person. All the rest of the rules are the same. So in person, public comment is just in person, remote's optional. Attendance, we just need 3 of you attending, and that could be 2 of you in person and 1 of you for a disability accommodation. And then frequency, no set limitation here. Again, it's whatever's necessary to accommodate that disability. If you ever have a situation in which you feel that you need to request an accommodation to participate in a meeting, please let myself, Rob, Lauren, or anybody else on staff know, and we can work with you to make sure that that's taken care of. So that's actually all I had this afternoon, but happy to answer any questions.
Mary, questions? Greg? Kat?
I don't think so. Remember when Rick,
Yeah.
when Rick had his knee replaced, would
Yeah.
that be disability or would that be the other?
Yeah, that's a great example. So that was before the Attorney General's opinion, which recognized disability as a separate way to attend meetings. So he actually attended those meetings as just cause for a medical emergency. However, it's an excellent example. If we were to have that, I hope we don't have that situation, but if we ever were to have that situation again with the director, we likely could use the disability accommodation to provide a little bit more flexibility.
Right, because his physical therapist came in the middle of it and
Yeah.
it wasn't considered a disruption.
Yeah.
Okay.
Teresa? I just have one question, just to clarify. When a director is in the situation of calling in remotely where they're supposed to post the agenda, you said that the agenda is to be posted in the remote location 72 hours before. So if they're traveling on the move and they could not participate remotely unless they were somehow able to get to the future location and post an agenda.
Yeah, that's correct. However, you would be surprised, a lot of, if folks are staying at a hotel or if they're staying at an Airbnb or anything, we're happy to work with that location to make sure that they post it. So that directors, if they're not going to be there the 72 hours in advance, are still able to participate. And at least for hotels, it's surprisingly common, and the concierges are generally aware of the requirement and pretty accommodating.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, we will close public comment. Thank you, Josh. Moving on to item number 8, the Truckee Library funding. Who's leading this?
I'll start, and then I'll ask the executive director of the Friends of Truckee Library, April Cole, to come to the podium to cover a presentation. You have a staff report before you on this topic. In last year's budget process, the board considered strategic plan initiatives, and we budgeted some money for this year's budget to consider during the year an award. And this was one of the items that was talked about as a potential area the board was interested in finding out more. Part of the criteria, if I remember the discussion right, was the board was very interested in being closer to the last dollar investment in a new construction of a library, with some criteria around Measure G was passed. There's other substantial funding being obtained. I think April Cole is here today to present the current status of where the new Truckee Library is at financially, moving towards construction. And then if that meets the board's interest, and then there's consideration for further negotiations to develop a contract to participate in that construction fundraising for actual construction in the near future. So with that, I will, unless there's questions, I'll turn it over to April Cole.
Just 1 second, April. Do you have the document with you that outlines where we find tie-in with the airport special district purpose?
I do, yes.
Could you just, for the record, even just summarize that?
Sure. So there's when we think about policy instruction 311, which outlines a requirement in public policy for investment of taxpayer dollars at the airport district into the community off the airport property. There needs to be some strong tie-in, and I welcome Josh to comment on this. But there's 4 principal areas that we've identified in talking with the Truckee Library folks, the Friends of Truckee Library, that connect very strongly with the airport district's public purpose for an investment like this in construction. One would be around the STEAM education and having a particular area within the library that supports STEAM education programs and actual materials, perhaps even specific to aviation, more relevant to us. The other area is identifying more community meeting areas and office space that would be available to members of the airport district. We continually have constraints on both this space and other spaces across the community that would, it comes into a shortfall, and this would provide an additional location for those kinds of activities. The emergency operations hub that is part of the plan associated with the new library fits in with our design services. We provided this region here in the way of care flight services, fire suppression, OES, Office of Emergency Services type of support for response related to an airport. Having another venue to support those kind of activities would be in alignment with our public purpose as well. And those are the primary areas that I think we've identified.
All right, thank you. Ms. Cole.
All right. Good evening, Chair Diamond and honorable members of the board. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here and present tonight. As I was introduced, I'm April Cole. I'm the executive director of the Friends of the Truckee Library. And the Friends of the Truckee Library are the organization leading the advocacy, community engagement, and fundraising for the new Truckee Regional Library. With me here tonight is Kathleen Egan. Kathleen is a member of the Board of Directors for the Friends of the Truckee Library. I will lead the informational presentation, and then the two of us are available for any questions, which we hope to be able to answer in detail for you this evening. So we'll go next. I'd like to start this presentation by grounding it in why a new Truckee Regional Library is critically needed in our community. The current Truckee Library was built in 1974 for a population of roughly 2,000 people and now serves over 20,000 residents. It is too small, not ADA compliant, and cannot support modern technology, learning programs, and the community services that we need. 43% of students in the Tahoe Truckee Community Unified School District qualify for free and reduced lunch. Many lack reliable internet, quiet spaces to study, and most importantly, access to technology. The teen area is literally 1 table and 4 chairs. It is insufficient for current students and certainly not sufficient for the next generation. This project is not just about replacing an old building. It is infrastructure that supports education, workforce development, and community resilience. The new library will serve as a flexible, modern facility designed for broad community impact. It will provide dedicated spaces available for STEAM programming, technology access, and collaborative learning, supporting skill development for future careers. The building itself is designed for community resilience. It will include clean indoor air, backup power, and communications capability, allowing it to function as a safe refuge during wildfire events, extended power outages, winter storms, and other emergencies. In short, the library is infrastructure that addresses multiple regional challenges in one coordinated and sustainable facility. So where are we at now? We are currently moving through phase 2 of design, which will carry the project from schematic design to final construction documents and permitting. The high-level cost estimate for the project is approximately $39 million, which includes construction and soft costs. These numbers are based on the schematic designs completed to date. It is important to note that this estimate does not yet include additive options, adjustments for inflation, or final contingencies. Phase 2 work is where we will refine these numbers and provide a validated construction budget. These professionally prepared schematic estimates are conservative and provide a reliable basis for planning and fundraising as we refine the budget in phase 2. The primary funding for this project is already in place. Measure G, the voter-approved parcel tax, which passed in November 2025, is projected to provide approximately $20 million. Friends of the Truckee Library has raised $4.9 million in philanthropic contributions to date. Additional commitments include $1 million from Nevada County and $730,000 from the town of Truckee. Together, these commitments bring the project to approximately 67% of total funding secured. This is an important threshold in the project. In capital campaigns, this is the stage where the project moves from early concepts into a more advanced, credible phase of development. This level of committed capital establishes credibility, momentum, and stability, while also providing a strong foundation for the remaining fundraising. At this stage, the project is entering a phase where each new success meaningfully strengthens the path forward and supports a focused, disciplined approach to completing the campaign. The remaining funds of the project are approximately $12 million. Friends of the Truckee Library has developed a clear, structured fundraising plan in collaboration with professional fundraising consultants. This plan identified key donor segments, funding channels, and milestones, and includes a realistic timeline for achieving campaign goals. A third-party feasibility study confirmed that the project has strong potential for success at this scale. Based on that research, the plan focuses on raising up to $12 million in private philanthropy and an additional $10 million through foundation, state, and federal grant opportunities. We have already exceeded key milestones in philanthropic commitments, demonstrating that the strategy is effective and actionable. We are actively advancing discussions with major donors and pursuing grant opportunities, maintaining momentum and on-track progress toward our goals. By continuing to execute this professional fundraising plan, we expect to achieve at least 80% of the total project funding by the end of 2026, positioning this project for our targeted yet aggressive May 2027 groundbreaking date. I want to talk about why the timing of this request matters. Funding at this stage creates leverage that we simply cannot access later. This public sector investment signals confidence in the project and materially strengthens our position with other funders. Foundations, state agencies, and federal programs consistently look for projects that demonstrate momentum, shared commitment, and meaningful public participation. TTAD's funding at this stage does more than add dollars. It multiplies impact across private philanthropy and grants. Measure G was a clear signal that the public supports this project. This funding builds on that momentum at the most critical moment in the campaign, readying us to convert expressed interest into committed capital. We are already hearing from foundations and institutional funders who have expressed interest in supporting the project, particularly in areas of furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and last dollar funding. TTAD funding now positions the project readied for these identified funding opportunities. In short, it's not about filling a gap, it's about unlocking our next level of funding. The impact of funding now is significantly greater than the same dollars invested later. TTAD has been a true partner in bringing this project forward. Your early support through the TTAD Agency Partnership Program helped build momentum, engage the community, and advance the library project to this pivotal stage. Every step championed by TTAD has positioned the project for success. And now, your commitment at this moment leverages that foundation into construction readiness and ensures the library delivers maximum benefit for STEAM education, workforce development, and community resilience. Today, we are asking the board to vote in favor of the staff recommendation to authorize the general manager to enter into a funding agreement with the Friends of the Truckee Library for $2 million toward the construction of the new Truckee Library. We are requesting that these funds be obligated now, but structured to transfer only at groundbreaking. This investment aligns with TTAD's mission of supporting aviation education, workforce readiness, and regional emergency preparedness, while delivering broad, lasting impact to the public in the entire Truckee Tahoe region. I'm going to go off script. This is a moment now in time that we have all been working together for many, many years. This project is significant for the community. It touches every demographic. It crosses county borders, and it has been a huge undertaking by the entire community to lift us to this point. We have a moment today to really solidify the power of the cross-jurisdictional relationship that we have, the regional facility that we are building, and what we are choosing to invest in for our community and how we represent our community for generations to come. I'm really, really proud to be a part of this project. I'm really grateful to be here tonight to have this discussion with you. And I will close on a real hope that you guys consider that this is an opportunity that you could move forward with it. I'm open to questions with Kath, please, and thank you.
Thank you, April. Greg, any questions for April or staff? Okay, Kat? Teresa?
Well, what's your structure for this? Are we going to discuss it?
We're going to ask clarifying questions, and we're going to get public comment, and then we'll deliberate.
Okay, I have a question for Rob. This budget, I assume you gave it to us for this discussion?
That was in the staff report?
This?
No, that was part of a later presentation by our Director of Finance, just put together a glossy version of our 2026 budget.
Okay, well,
All right.
relevant.
Yes.
2 million is not in our budget currently, correct?
It's in the strategic plan initiatives for this year. It was, in total, it was 3 million. 2 million was earmarked to be discussed later this year of where that focus would be, whether it be wildfire mitigation again, library, something else is a new initiative, all the above. So we have built $2 million into the operating budget for this year.
And this wouldn't be dispersed until next year?
Per agreement based on timelines for construction, yes. Most likely at earliest next year, yeah.
Okay. In this handout. That
Yes, in the budget,
wasn't
yes.
for this.
Yes.
It says forecasted 2025 actual bottom line net income, 1,146,000. And in the bonus discussion, your first bullet said financially, the airport will finish the year with over 2 million ahead of budget. So why don't they match?
The budget draft was developed last October, and when the board approved it, timeframe. So those numbers are based on a forecast end of the year 2025 estimate. The refined estimate, when I drafted the staff report, was in December. It was estimated we'd be exceeding $2 million. I think the preliminary financials that have just come out for this meeting has us just below $2 million. So they're just different data points in time of what the estimated forecast would be, where we would end the year.
So,
We're not audited yet for 2025, so we don't have the final numbers.
but you're fairly confident in the 2 million number?
I'm confident for how we're going to end this last
25.
year, or
Yep.
for the 2 million in the budget this year.
Nope, 25.
For 25 plus, I'm confident in about 1.5 million at the low end.
Well, assuming we make that, then I'm all for this. 'Cause
Yeah.
otherwise
Some of
we're
it's just the
looking at-
timing of when the previous fire mitigation projects and their invoicing is coming in. We haven't had a big winter, so a lot of the fire districts have got after their work in the way of burning and other things. So we're seeing a lot of the invoices coming in faster than we were expecting. So that's the primary reason why we're below that $2 million estimate I had last December.
So-
But yes, I think we're going to still end up very positively for the year.
That, I guess, is the end of my clarifying questions,
Yeah.
and we'll discuss the rest.
Mary, any clarifying questions?
No.
I have 1.5. For April, if the board decided to contribute some money to this, for whatever that amount would it be advantageous to you in your fundraising if we were to make it contingent on matching for other potential donors to match our funds, and that we would creep up to a maximum number based on that?
It's an excellent question, and leveraging with a match is always powerful. The reason why I'm pausing is it necessary, right, in order to then raise the funds? And looking at where the campaign is and the current conversations that we're having, an initial commitment at a higher level, a transformative level at this time, the instant leverage that it gets, particularly in our additional fundraising requests with grant opportunities and foundation opportunities, would be so powerful that I would prefer an initial commitment rather than a match, because I do believe the matches will come in time.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then, Rob, this is a question, another budget question. It appears that we have the money to commit to this now. Would this necessarily be exclusive of wildfire mitigation commitments? Or where would you see us on?
Yeah, I think our 2025, when we get to fully audit, will end in a positive fashion to budget, in excess of $1 million, easily 1.5, I think, closer, based on the timing of some of the invoices. The budget for 2026, based on our projected revenue for airport operations, leases, rents, tax revenue, has built into it an expenditure of $2 million for strategic initiatives out of our tax funds. So that is secure in the budget from our tax dollars that we will see in 2026. So I don't think there's any shortfall in funding for this particular item from where those dollars come from for us.
Okay, Mary, looks like you've got a question.
Yeah, I'm just, you know me and the idea of how do all of our special districts work together? And is there work happening to approach other special districts to serve all of our constituencies? It's not just one special agency, it's all of our special agencies. Wondering if what effort is expended towards that.
I think that's an excellent question. It is our desire that this project reflects our broad community, that it has engagement, meaningful engagement from all of our local districts. What that looks like will be different between all of them, and our engagement with all of them is in process and in different various stages, right? Today's request to you guys is not, we woke up this morning and thought, boy, would it be great if we went and asked TTAD for a contribution like this. And our engagement with our partners are ongoing. So it is our desire to have a meaningful contribution. I can't publicly commit anybody, any other agency, to any type of engagement or future engagement that they haven't yet solidified, but I can share with you that we have conversations with each of our districts and they are ongoing.
Because it's in 2016, 17, it was a Moonshine Inc. article about ad valorem taxes are over $100 million in our region. That's, it's property tax that does not show up on your property tax bill. It's ad valorem, which is why I push and how we all work together for all the constituencies. That was one. And the other one would be in terms of this funding. I mean, I am not comfortable, giving you a check right now, and by precedent, we want to be last dollar, but everybody wants to be last dollar. But the point being, conditioning it on putting this in an escrow account, conditioning it somehow so that when you reach a certain milestone, then the check comes. Mm-hmm. Is that an acceptable methodology?
Yeah, I think obligated funding with a contingent milestone for the funding would make sense in developing a funding plan, and that would be an expectation. I think that's right.
Because we have funded other things that have not happened.
Absolutely.
And then we have a hard time getting it back. So that's why I would want to be clear about that. Mm-hmm. But I am a complete proponent of this project going forward. I think it's a benefit, and I'm discussing now. It's not a question.
Greg, go ahead.
What's the estimated operating budget?
We are still working on what the estimated operating budget is. So when we were moving forward with this entire project, it was expected that the footprint is going to be larger and therefore the operations would need to be reviewed. And the timing of doing that and development with that. That's a piece of our MOU with Placer County, is exploring what possibilities there are for regional operational efficiencies. And the development and discussions with how that regionality can take place is not a quick discussion. And we were in a place in time where it was, do you continue to move forward with a project that meets the scale, the needs that have been identified from the community now, and understanding that cost for building goes up year over year? Or do you wait until you get the operations piece settled and then do that? And what we opted to do was to walk and chew gum at the same time. So we're not yet at a place where we have the annual operating budget settled. We are continuing to work on that, and I'm happy to report back when we finalize those conversations and really get to something that we feel is presentable to this board.
Do you have a rough timeline on that, or even a rough broad strokes on like the range, just, some guardrails on what an operating budget would be?
I would say it's our, Kath, do you have a timeline that you would do? How about you can tell me and I can,
Oh, that's all right.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, I just didn't want to stand here. When we talk with Nevada County about the operations budget, it's a function, we have to see the library in order to make those estimations. So we're related to them. We're building, the Joint Powers Authority is building and constructing and maintaining the library, but we're not in charge of operations. That's Nevada County. And when we have those discussions with them, it's a function of, we're just going to need to wait and see what the library looks like, and then we'll talk about the operating budget. So it's hard to put a time on it.
But Nevada County is not financing.
Our desire is within this year to figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident that we can.
Okay.
That's our desire.
Okay.
is to get
But
that
Nevada
settled.
County is operating the library, but they're also financing the operations?
The library will be operated by the Nevada County Library System.
As
Okay.
it currently is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And therefore operations will be funded by Nevada County?
Yes.
Nevada County Library System.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that was cool.
Yep.
So then I don't really care about what the operating budget is.
We care.
We care. We care.
We do care.
Well, so I guess then the follow-up question, right? If I'm doing my math right, you've got 26 million to date, right? We're discussing a possible up to 2 million today, and if I read the slides right, 10 million from philanthropy, 12 million from grants. That puts you at 48 plus 2 from us is 50.
Those are our top lines, so we're already working towards those goals. So it's our desire that we have Measure G and then an additional identified 22 million total to raise. When we look at the contributions from Nevada County, from Town of Truckee, the philanthropic contributions from Friends of the Truckee Library, those go into those two buckets of philanthropic philanthropy for 12 million and agency foundations grant funding at 10 million.
Okay, so this 26 includes that 22. It's not 26 plus 22.
Correct.
That's right.
Okay, all right.
Inclusive.
That makes a lot more sense. I was
Great.
like, we're looking at a surplus of forecasting here. It's quite the hockey stick. Okay, thank you. Very helpful. Appreciate it.
May I go back to you, David?
Yeah.
Because I can think and talk at the same time. I'm going through all my grant opportunities and funding opportunities, and really I've been sitting here weighing back and forth, which is the best way to leverage this. And I would like to, if you wanted to propose a matching opportunity, I see leverage opportunities there that may exceed the leverage opportunities with an initial commitment.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me think.
Thanks
while
for the
talking.
clarity. Do we have any more questions for them before we go to public comment? All right. Thank you for that. And we will, on the off chance there might be public comment on this topic, we'll open public comment. If you have any public comment, please come up to the podium, and if you'd like to state your name, do so. Seeing no public comment, we'll close public comment and go to board deliberations. Teresa, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm in total support, but you asked the question about, does this replace fire mitigation? And the bottom line is we have 2 mil in the 26 budget. So either uses that all up or we find a new source. However, if we have 1.5 mil, we can earmark it, or 2 mil for this, or we can commit 2 mil to this and only do 1.5 mil if it comes in less. But I don't want to take any money out of our reserves.
Kat?
I'm 100% behind it. This would be coming out of our 27 budget, as I understand it. Or,
Based on the conversations when groundbreaking would take place and we would transfer the funds, that's my understanding as well.
yeah. So I'm very much in favor with entering into negotiations and whatever works with the match or not the match, or you guys can figure that out.
Greg?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be more excited about this. It's exciting to be a part of. I second Teresa's comment on kind of how we allocate it across existing funds and annual budgets. Yeah, nothing else for me.
Mary?
I think this is an awesome opportunity for our entire constituency, for the Truckee Tahoe area, and for cross-pollination amongst different age groups. And in its location adjacent to a neighborhood that really desperately needs something like this. So I'm for it 100%, and I would leave it in terms of negotiation between April and Rob to figure out if it's best, as David brought that up, in terms of matching versus a pledge, whatever works best for it to proceed. Go team.
I think in forming an opinion about this, other than putting my personal thoughts aside on this, the voters did overwhelmingly support this, and we are here representing those people. 100% of the people that voted on this are in the airport district, so we don't have any outliers in that. We do appear to have a strong tie-in with the airport's public purpose, which was another important consideration for how we spend money here. And on the matching, if we can have a motion that gives them the flexibility to do that, I would be for that. If we have to be more specific on it, I would just remind the board that at any point in time in the future, we could decide to, if the matching was not all there, we could decide to just move forward with the rest of it. But if we have that flexibility, I think it's great to have that flexibility just in the planning process.
Council was just leaning over recommending, which I agree with, we don't necessarily need a motion at this time. We can bring you back a final negotiated document based on guidance for a final motion. But with the guidance you have here today, if you want to refine that at all, I'm happy to repeat back what I've heard or further comments.
I think it's pretty clear that you have at least consensus to move forward on this. Do you want to read that back just for the record?
My understanding is that the board has consensus around $2 million funding level, most likely to come out of the 2027 budget when it would actually transfer. They're interested in the pledge commitment of the actual agreement, the final agreement. Flexibility to determine whether or not match makes sense or not based on negotiations with the Friends of Truckee Library. And we are not intending to pull any of this out of our equity, but only out of our operating funds. Did I miss anything?
Does that sound good for everybody?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thanks, April and Kathleen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just want to say what an awesome job has been done by the FOTL group to get it this far and to address the need in this community.
Item 10, TTAD Board of Directors Team Building Program. Who is that?
I'm going to refer that to the Board of Directors. I don't have a staff report in here for that, but our board policies do, and our strategic plan do outline a commitment for the Board of Directors to engage in regular, not only training as Josh has talked about, which some of that in board policy instruction is twice a year, but other training or team building activities the board may be interested in this, in helping define this. So back to the board.
Does anyone on the board have any thoughts on team building exercises for us this year?
I have some thoughts, and I didn't know if this is the right place or towards the end when we're talking about future agenda priorities, but I'd like to see a workshop happening on some of the issues that we've talked about in terms of vacant land, Policy 202, dollar from taxes, how it's assigned, and to do a board self-assessment. This was something that actually is in our policy. I pulled up Policy 202 and read it. And it talks about, there's highlighted some various things about the board shall biannually or sooner as required review and critique themselves with respect to the Code of Ethics, Airport Act, Brown, and any other regulation. There's also a Board of Directors self-assessment that we had done many years ago that I think there'd be some value for us to touch and in a workshop, then to talk about it, So that's why I sent the thing out, please bring your calendar, because I'm gone till early March, but trying to get something like that worked in that first or second week of March prior to our March board meeting.
And this is, you brought up a lot of topics
I
there.
did.
You're talking about a workshop to cover some of that or all of that?
All of it.
All
I
of
think
that.
it's an all-day to talk about this board self-assessment, and I can give this to Rob or Josh to then pass around to all of us. All board members understand the mission, passionate about the mission. Board always comes back to the mission in its decision-making. There's 24 questions and also places for comment. I think that we could all derive some value in this in a workshop. The other aspect of that is in the elected board of directors expectations, and I think that you put this together for us, Josh, years ago, was certain things in there that, talk about how we interact with the general manager, pre-meeting briefings, avoiding electronic communications, participate in our formal self-evaluation process, which is conducted at least biannually in accordance. So that would be one component of the workshop. The other is that I saw on the rolling agenda, the vacant land discussion, we were approached, and we as a group talked about that we need to talk about that. And so that could be a piece of it. And the other point is what Greg had brought up at some point about talking about how we talk about money in terms of how that money is targeted. So that could be an all-day kind of workshop in early March. And I would ask the board to consider pulling out your calendars. I don't want to do it on the 10th because I will have been on an all-night flight, but March 10th. But I think it would be valuable to do it prior to our March meeting.
Okay, so let me read that back. An all-day or close to all-day workshop that talks about a self-evaluation of the board, that discusses land use and the money target reserves discussion.
Why, I'm sorry, I missed, why March?
Well, because I leave in 2 weeks, and I'm gone then. And the vacant land discussion is actually shown on the rolling agenda for February, which we could roll that into March, or we could roll that into April. But we have talked, it's been, when did they make the presentation? The town made that presentation in October.
Yeah.
And do we want to have that discussion? So
Yeah, this sort of it hooks in with strategic planning, so,
Yeah.
but when do we have that on the calendar for this year?
How is this team building?
I was going to say, let's throw axes.
Yeah.
Let's what?
How
Throw
is
axes.
this team building? This sounds like work.
Okay, well then I've kind of.
I think the topics are all,
I think
I think all the
I mean,
topics
they're
are
all
good. but-
relevant, but
yeah.
it's, you know.
Okay.
I definitely think the self-evaluation aspect of this
Okay,
is,
then let's just talk about the self-evaluation. I think there's value in the self-evaluation. I would like Rob to distribute this, because I can't, because of Mr. Brown, and that we use that as a
Team building exercise.
team-building exercise.
Are you talking about it being, do you envision it being facilitated by a third party or?
No, I'm envisioning that we answer these questions and do this comment, kind of holding a mirror up to ourselves.
Okay.
And then we talk about it. I don't know that we need a facilitator for that. I think it,
Might not be a bad idea, but not required either.
do you want to incur $1,000 cost to have somebody there to talk us through it? And I mean, and then the question is, so we have these numbers, we all bring it, who compiles it, how do we go from here? That
When
would
was the
be-
last time that was done? I don't remember ever doing that.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
I mean, I can
I mean, I
remember
know-
doing
I'm sure
it years ago.
Yeah, and how did that, do you remember how that rolled out?
I don't,
or-
there's been different boards over the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So it hasn't always been pleasant, but it's valuable.
Team
For sure
building.
will be this time.
So, yes, I think there's value in that, and I would like to see us do that.
I think the self-evaluation is a great idea. I think I would love to see as part of our self-evaluation, an evaluation of our performance from staff.
That would be good.
We've talked about this in the past, but it did not get support, but I would like to know what airport staff thinks of us as a functioning board. And I think that if we got that ahead of the self-evaluation, that could inform that discussion. I personally would prefer it not be moderated, because on something like this, I think part of it is just seeing us work on something that's potentially difficult and getting through it together with our own leadership, like we do in every meeting. So I'm not strong on that side of it, but I feel like I think it would be a good exercise for us to not have to rely on that. And that's just on that. And I actually think on the other topics, which may be outside of the team building aspect, but I do think it's getting some workshops on the calendar for the land use. Josh, did we ever hear back from the FPPC on if I have a conflict with the town on land use discussions?
No, let me check on that. We'll follow up.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, so sticking to the self-evaluation thing, I would be in support of this, and I would be in support of looking at calendars right now to see if we can come up with a date. Does staff have any thoughts or concerns about that?
No, we're happy to support what the board would like to do on these various matters. Some sound like workshops that are similar to what's on the rolling agenda, maybe just in a different time frame. Some sounds like training, some sounds like internal survey. Mary, you had a survey. Is that a policy instruction, or is that just some survey that was used in the past?
It was just a list of questions.
Oh, okay.
How satisfied are you that, and it lists 24 things. Board service to TTAD is gratifying and rewarding. I mean, it goes
Okay.
through it. You rate it 1 to 4 or not sure, and then there are questions, open questions. And I think there'd be, I should have made copies and brought them to everybody here, but I didn't.
Okay, so.
So we're supportive of what the board would like to do. It sounds like there's some
Okay.
key topics there around land use. It takes a little preparation still. We actually have a current appraisal underway for the open 7 acres. So, another 30 days would be helpful to finalize that and pull together the rest of the information. Budget topics and
Maybe these are 2 different workshops.
Yeah, definitely. It seems
You know.
that way. So are we?
the
let me just
strategic
pause you.
plan,
One
yeah,
for
strategic
one.
plan is not something we had planned on for this year after just passing last year, but
Thank you.
tied, updates to that tied on, quarterly basis at board meetings, absolutely, right.
Okay, just to hone in on this, do we have board consensus to do an in-person self-evaluation kind of workshop?
If we can find a date, sure.
Okay. And good. Okay. Do we have board consensus in advance of that to doing a evaluation with staff of the board?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay. So we've got that. So now we're just looking at dates. Is everybody looking at calendar March?
I can give you the 24th in person.
That's the day before the.
Yeah, I would have to be done by 5 PM because I have to be at that council meeting by 5 PM.
Well, we would hope that we could be done by then. It's a long day.
Right, but I'm just saying in case anybody wanted to start in the afternoon. Could we do late morning of the 24th?
I can.
Works for me.
Tuesdays is my biggest day of like just normal work meetings.
What about the 23rd then?
23rd would be great.
Is-
Yeah. I've got,
Your work meetings? Or you?
no, it's Botox, but
But I mean, is that,
move it a day.
oh, okay, but that, okay. Is that is it a morning or afternoon or?
It's 3 o'clock.
So could we do morning?
I'm out the door at 2.
I think that'd be doable.
Yeah,
So morning of the 23rd and so that we're done by 2 PM?
okay.
9 o'clock?
9 to 2.
9 to 1?
And, yeah,
I mean, do we need?
I can leave from here.
okay. Self-assessment, that's going to be our self-assessment, which means backing it up. We need to have this distributed.
I guess
and
I'm just pushing back on like, do we need 5 hours to get through all this?
Probably not,
As
but
someone who's,
Oh, 10. 10 is good.
as someone who's,
10 to 2?
yeah. I don't know, I mean, we're throwing out numbers, like, can we do a time estimate on how we actually need and then schedule the
Well-
meeting to match that?
Yeah, what I'm thinking is that if we get it on the calendar right now and then we see what Mary's got and then we can.
Great idea, so
Kinda look at-
hold 9 to 2, we can,
10 to 2, yeah.
10 to 2, okay, and then we can compress based on the task.
Right.
Okay, I like that,
Okay.
thank you.
and I will give this to Rob
To
to
Rob,
send
okay.
out. Then,
Okay.
and, part of this, besides board self-assessment, I think it's also an opportunity to look at our elected board of director expectations and our policy, 202.
Okay.
Mary's holding us all accountable.
What a meaning.
It's good, it's good. Support it.
Okay.
And in terms of developing questions, do we want specific questions opened up for staff, or is it to assess us, or is it just open-ended, like give a comment to the board, how you think we function, or are they going to be dealing with the same?
Ended.
I would say some structured questions just so that we can get some data points on it and then an unstructured,
These are very open-ended
Open
questions
field.
that they could be used. And, it's a 1 through 4, click, and then open-ended questions.
right, but how many of them are there?
There's 24.
And that's applicable to the board performance?
Yeah, all.
So we would be it would be the same survey of ourselves that staff would be using for us?
Yeah, potentially.
Okay,
We can, he'll pass it around. If anybody has serious heartburn, we can talk about it.
Okay.
Through Rob.
all right. Does that work for y'all?
Okay?
Staff, Rob, do you have what you need from us on that? Just that we're going to do this, and I guess we can talk about the
Yeah, we talked about the
specifics.
details and the timing of when you want to distribute that to staff and the format of it. Yeah, we can make it all work.
Okay, perfect. Do we have any public comment on team building exercises for the board?
It'll be exciting because that's the days before the board meeting, so we're generally,
In the zone.
in the zone,
That's right.
which is good, but it's also like, that's a time when I meet with Rob to ask questions, and it gets I'm reading through the board book, so be
Okay.
pressed, but we
Okay.
can do it. We got a date.
Seeing no public comment, open item 11, board committee assignments and ad hoc committee reports. Rob, do you want to?
Yeah, Lauren's bringing it up right now, and on here, we'll start with the Workforce Housing Agency, which Lauren is our rep on that board. Any additional update from that, Lauren?
Nothing additional. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. The biggest component of our conversation, just as a quick note, is T2SD put in their notice to leave the JPA. Per our bylaws, you have to give 2 years. So they'll be active and participating over the next 2 years, but will be transitioning away from the JPA to help focus more of their efforts on their Alder Creek development project.
Do we have any questions for Lauren?
Yes, so Lauren, so now who's left in there? Because who's left
Yeah.
in this agency group?
So all 3 land jurisdiction agencies, Nevada County, Placer County, Town of Truckee, Truckee Donner PUD, Tahoe Forest Hospital District, and us.
So they're all participants in workforce housing,
Yes.
right? But are Placer County kind of running their own program on top of this?
Yeah, so Nevada, Placer, and Town of Truckee have their own programs that they facilitate on their own for their constituents within their jurisdiction.
Okay.
Nevada County just came out with a down payment assistance program for residents of Nevada County that they just shared last week. It's a small amount of money, so they expect it to go really quickly, but we'll be opening it up. Placer County runs a lot of their ADU projects, so they offer money or fast tracks in for homeowners to build ADUs. And that has been quite successful within Placer County because they've been able to build a better relationships with TRPA to get that going. And Town of Truckee has their own lease to locals and deed restriction type programs. They've changed the name of it recently, so I don't know it off the top of my head, but they run their own programs.
And then the hospital, are they doing their own thing as well?
They have their own down payment assistance program, which our program is mirrored off of their policy. That's their only program, but it's ran through the JPA. The JPA administers that for them.
And how much money do we put into this?
I believe right now our fee is $19,000 a year.
Okay,
And then we budgeted this last year $50,000 just as a placeholder. And the JPA is going through 3 different member agency fee scenarios that we'll be reviewing in March to adjust and accommodate just the spread of how member agencies are amendable for helping the general public, because the JPA helps all general public. It's not just member agency employees. And some agencies have, like Truckee Donner PUD, TTUSD has restrictions on their funding of how they receive it. And so they only want their funding to go towards projects for their own member agency employees. And that is at a head when it comes to the JPA's biggest goal is addressing the general public. So we're having to talk through member agency funds from Truckee Donner, PUD, TTUSD, and having that be more limited for projects for just their employees, and for the land jurisdictions, Tahoe Forest Hospital District, maybe us, because we are a hybrid in our perspective of we want to help the general public and also our member agency employees, because our funds aren't as restricted. They're not restricted funding.
what's the overall budget of what? or?
The housing agency?
Yeah.
It's increased. It was set at like $430,000, but increased over the years just because the scope of services and just costs in general of like legal fees, accounting, it's blossomed to about $566,000.
So, housing is the big issue here in town, but we are a very small player compared to all these other entities. And I just wonder, if the school district's pulling out, if the hospital's doing their own thing, Placer County's doing their own thing, Nevada County's doing their own thing, and the town's doing their own thing, all with much bigger dollars, is there value with our $19,000 to $50,000? And I'm kind of asking the board, I'm not sure I'm seeing it, so convince me elsewise.
Lauren, what do you think? You see this. Is this a good use of time and funds? Are we solving housing problems here? Mary brings up a good point. If all these agencies are going at it alone, why would they not be putting all these resources into this combined effort?
So the jurisdiction agencies they have their own programs, and the reasons why it hasn't been taken on by the JPA is just budget and bandwidth of employees at the JPA. It's 2 employees, and they only have so much bandwidth. It's not that they're doing their own, and therefore what's the value of the JPA. There's still a lot of value as far as the services that the JPA currently is providing. The JPA spends a lot of time connecting with other HR departments and new hire employees, and some agencies have a greater one-on-one interaction with like concierge services. They're placed into apartments that are given first right of refusal for those employees. So there's other elements into it, and those jurisdictions still continue to see value of the JPA. I can't speak for Placer County or Nevada County or town of Truckee of why they're still participating. Our interaction, we only have 24 employees with 2 to 4 seasonal employees. The ratio of interaction is quite small. It is up to you guys to decide if that is a good value because it's budgeted and assigned by you guys every year during the project. We've received, direction from you that you're open to like serving the greater good, and the greater amount of employees out there. So it's not just based off of really the interaction of, at least the information I've received, the priority isn't necessarily just contained to our 24 employees. I can't speak for the other agencies of why. We only have one agency that's leaving, and that's because they want to spend their money to get their development up and going and off the ground and bonded with them versus the JPA taking it on as a development project.
And the school district's probably like 100 to 200 of that $500,000 on the annual, and there's 2 staff on this. In this JPA. I kind of foresee that we're going to be asked for more. And I don't know.
Well, we asked the Climate Transformation Alliance to come in and give us an update. Would we like to ask?
If you'd like Heidi to come in and give an update and be able to be here to answer your questions at a much more like operational management level, than I can. She'd be more than happy to come to a future meeting.
I would support that.
Yeah. Sure. Maybe February, because Mary won't be here.
Right.
Well, I'm just, it's bang for the buck, and to a certain extent, it's like
All right.
housing is tough. I mean, I got kids here, they're never going to be able to buy, even with all the assessment, all the help.
At our March meeting, we are going to be having real conversations about our budget and reserves and the different scenarios of member agency contributions. There's going to be 3. If Heidi will be able to come with much more information if it's closer to March when Mary is back from vacation.
So maybe the April meeting?
Yeah, I would suggest April, give them a chance to do their internal processes there at the JPA and have a better sense of what the future looks like to brief us on, if that works for Heidi. Yeah.
Yeah. To talk about
Okay.
our
All right.
positioning. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. And we'll hold public comment until we get to the end of these. The River Revitalization Steering Committee.
No updates this month, no meetings.
Okay, Climate Transformation Alliance.
There's some information in the report that talked about rolling out a new strategic plan and a focus on local initiatives and local projects and a solicitation of the community through the CTA, Climate Transformation Alliance, to be more hands-on with local projects, initiatives, and seeking at the next quarterly meeting recommendations of what those might be, so we can collaborate with those individuals, with the Sierra Business Council and CTA assets to help turn those project ideas and incubators into actual action. Is one of the main focuses for this new strategic plan being rolled out of the CTA. And I'll defer to Director Horvath if he has anything further to add to that.
Greg?
No, nothing to add. Thanks, Rob.
Do we have any questions for Rob or Greg on CTA stuff? Okay, what about TNT TMA monthly update?
I don't think we have anything further than what's in the report there.
No? Okay.
I have two questions.
Mary has questions.
I have a question on the river revitalization strategy. Just in terms of kind of the river revitalization is somewhat tied to the North 40 because that's property that could become business park, could help to get things off the river. Has that just died on the North 40?
No, it has not. So you're talking the land transfer on the backside of the airport. Or is it, do you want to talk to that, Rob? You're at that public agency discussion. I was not there.
Sure. TTSA, a couple of months ago now, held a public meeting with a number of public agencies from this area, some who have already made a request of the land to be developed down in that area. TTSA has identified certain areas to surplus, not all the property. But the property associated near the bus barn, if that's a familiar landmark, across the open flat area on this side of the road, are as areas they have identified as surplus land that they are seeking public interest, public agency interest in development. There were some early initial interest in that from the public utility district here locally, from the rec district, from the fire district, were the principal ones that expressed interest in some of that property for future development. They haven't entered into a formal process for that yet. I understand some of those agencies have actually made unsolicited requests for that property. TTSA, my understanding is that they are undergoing a rather sizable plant upgrade right now, and that's their primary focus of effort. And as they can get to land disposal and surplus over the next year, they will be addressing that as well.
Great, because that's a flat piece of land off the river, and it could be very beneficial to our region. So I just got to keep
There
asking
are some
that
positive signs. There's some interest initially from public agencies for part of that redevelopment.
question. Okay.
And if I could add, after that discussion, there are 3 catalyst projects. One of them, Tanner Construction, who's on the river, has inquired to the town, has reached out to me. He's reached out to TTSA about a potential relocation. So, but it's still too early. He wants to explore the conversation further, but kind of as Rob said, it's a little bit out there still.
But just keep
There's momentum.
momentum,
There's
please. The other aspect is on the fly safe, that, ACAT became ACT, and now it's going to become fly safe. And I get that, and
Are we on general manager's report?
it's right there, it's right before TNT, TMA.
Oh, okay.
There was an ACT meeting in there. as
Oh,
well.
the ACT
Yeah.
meeting, okay, got it.
Yeah, and just in terms of, you know me, and I'm always talking, how does the community fit into it? When ACAT was created, the idea was getting pilots and non-pilots in the same space to talk. And Fly Safe has been great, and I think we have safer pilots because of it, and I think that is for the community. But I also think there is concern out in the community that we just don't become Fly Safe. That we also continue, last year when we tried to do that barbecue meeting, it failed. But I would like to see something like that continue, better outreach. A barbecue food always brings people together with pilots and non-pilots, and having that opportunity, I would like that somehow. You're running it, it's not a board thing, but just please don't forget the community. Another piece of that in the Fly Safe, this was something that was created in our era of length and load bearing study. And this is a diagram that shows a specific airplane and what its footprint is. And to include this type of information in ACT, in the Fly Safe, to show that a Gulfstream, a G4, you can hear it 8 miles before and 10 miles afterward, you know, and just as an education component of this and greenhouse gas. It's education. We have educated the community that you're absolutely right. There will be planes that come here. We can't solve noise. We can't solve emissions. We can't solve those things. But we educate. And education can work both ways, not just deal with that community. It's also be aware of your impact. And I would like to see something like this developed, presented to the pilots, presented to, you know, we have these nice diagrams that show what the impact is, and just putting it out there. That's what I would like to see. I don't know if there's consensus for that, but you know, we know what our main aircraft are, and to actually, this was old, this was put together, this would have been probably 2004, 2005. It shows at a certain assumption, and some of the aircraft don't really fly anymore, but I would like to see something like this. Is there any board feeling for something like that?
You're talking about, just to abstract that, you're talking about a Fly Safe agenda that is more about the impacts of our operations as pilots, just to abstract
An
it?
education of that, yeah. And putting something like this up in a, you know, we talk about the air traffic control tower. Let's have something like this available.
My feeling on that is that it would not be well attended, but I don't think that's a reason to not do it. I think part of the education aspect is just knowing our impacts. So and the reason I say that is having spoken to people, a woman in Tahoe, Donner, who has a hearing ailment that makes the sound of jet engines particularly painful to her, and another associated with the Veterans Center who told me that they have members who have PTSD reactions to the sound of jets approaching because of their time in service. And as a pilot, those things impacted me. I don't fly a jet, of course, but I mean, it was impactful to know that it wasn't just an annoyance thing for some people. It was really more than that. I would support that.
And another aspect of it is when they're showing a Cessna, you know, this is an argument why, it's not just we're asking you to go off 2 because we want you to go off 2. It shows you that your footprint goes out 16 miles. And just to say, hey, you know, this is why we're asking you to do it. It gives a reason, not just, you know, maybe somebody, if they saw this, would say, oh, I hadn't ever thought of it that way. It's very graphic.
Any other thoughts from the board?
There's no downside.
I think there is. I don't think,
Birds in time.
I don't think we should call attention to noise.
That's a good point.
I think if
Why
people,
not?
because if people want to know, they have resources to find that stuff. And I just think. Oh. I don't think it would be beneficial to call attention to noise. I think it kind of highlights us as being very noisy, and the fact that there's nothing that we can do about it.
But we actually have done something about it. We've gotten pilots to voluntarily shift unnecessary departures off 29 to 2, which we've actually seen in the data that was impactful, and that was the source of that was education. So while we can't make an airplane quieter, we can, and I'm speaking as a pilot, like I'm cognizant of where I fly because I think that I'm forcing people on the ground to enjoy my hobby with me, you know? And I know, especially where you live, like you've been exposed to this over there as well.
Yeah.
The other component of that is that we have made outreach, and some pilots are very much going off of 2.9, heading east, when they can. If it's a dual engine, they can't, I get it.
Right.
But if they can, and the winds are okay, this would be a reason why to consider it. And it's very visual, and for those neighbors in Ponderosa, Martis Valley Estates, or in Olympic Heights, who in the summer are seeing overflights every 10 minutes or less, this could be something that makes it real for my decision to maybe, or a decision by a pilot to go off in a different direction, if I can, with winds and my aircraft. I think there's a lot of value in it.
I think it does, our mission statement, reduce impact on our neighbors and the environment, and part of that is, like you're saying, Kat, we can't make airplanes quiet, you know, but we can change behavior and flight routes, which we have done actually with the quiet routes and all that. And I feel like if there's any stone left unturned, it's not a big ask of my fellow pilots in this. I think because I think it also, and not that I'm dictating agenda or trying to dictate agenda, but the quiet routes are also the safer routes, at least for single engine airplanes. And I think there's still a school of thought that I fly off 2.9 because it's a big runway, and if I lose my engine, I'm going to land on the bridge. And it's like that might have worked 15, 20 years ago, but with the traffic that's on the bridge, maybe right now you could do it, or probably not, because we're still not even that late. But I do think that we learned that when we did the emergency landing guide. It's like there's a happy coincidence between flying quietly and flying safely in this region.
Simultaneous to this, it's an education point to the community at large that we are making this outreach to the pilots to say, are you aware of your footprint? That's a big sell for those neighborhoods that are still quite upset.
Yeah, the feedback is great. Thank you. It might fit better under the management reports, under the AVCOM reports in the Fly Safe category than the committee reports. But we're just building the agenda for Fly Safe for this year, and this kind of feedback is helpful and something we can certainly consider as we line out the programmatics for the Fly Safe with the combined act as part of that. So we are reaching out to the combine those different elements of the community, not just pilots together, was the concept of combining ACT and Fly Safe for 2026. So that's good feedback, and something we can talk further as an agenda item later, or maybe under the management report section for AVCOM. But no, thank you for the feedback.
I would just say on that, just to clarify this, that it sounds like you do have consensus to pursue something like that if you can make it work.
Noted, thank you. Yep.
Okay, do we have any public comment on the board committee assignments? No public comment. Management team reports number 12, general manager's report.
You do have a report in there. I will just note that it is January 2026. This is the beginning of our new strategic plan, 2-year horizon. So the previous goals that we were pursuing related to the previous strategic plan. The new strategic plan goes into effect this year with this year's budget and this year's goals. This is the broad depiction of those high-level areas. And we'll begin reporting on those going forward here every month in this meeting about how we're achieving our strategic plan goals specific to 2026. And I'll bring more detail to that in future meetings as we move through the calendar year. Other than that, I don't have any additional comments on my management report.
Do we have any questions for Rob?
No.
Okay. Put my thing in there. Okay.
I think we have council on next before AvCom.
And no additional items this evening, thank you.
Okay, so that's the, and then Jeff, Aviation and Community Services?
Sure. Three updates. You have the AvCom report. There's an attachment talking about the FlySafe, a recap of last year. And then there's the ops comments for last quarter. FlySafe, in the AvCom report, everything's in there. The only thing that's maybe a little bit different is the hangar wait list is creeping up a little bit more. Timing is perfect as Director Hetherington was talking about the FlySafe program. We have the first couple events scheduled. I've been talking with staff of some different ideas, both about noise, but some fun things that would get both the pilots and the community out en masse, such that my position on the FlySafe program is we've provided value to it, which is why people show up. We averaged 54 people per event, about 250 people throughout the course of last year. Our largest event had 104 people. I think there's some ways where we can get both community and pilots out, make it interesting, make it fun, make it learning based with some pretty cool stuff, and still hit the educational pieces that we care about. So we're going to spend time on it. We'll figure out a way to create value and education at the same time, make it really cool. The only other thing, kind of cool, under STEAM, we did an aviation immersion program with a high school student. Started in January, it'll finish in March. Coming out once a week. They're spending time here with some airport staff that they've already done Mountain Lion, Sierra Aero, Care Flight, kind of making their rounds through it. I've talked with the father, said the first day that the student was out here was like best day of school this student's ever had. So we've been in conversations with TTUSD about career training and education, how to stimulate that. And so this is through Tahoe Exhibition Academy, which has more flexibility. So we're looking to expand it, but it's pretty exciting. Noise. Yep.
Who's paying?
The parent, I don't know who's paying for it, but it's not us.
Why not?
We could. We don't have a mechanism right now to do that, but we certainly could. It would.
Up to a lot more kids.
Absolutely, it would. I mean, for King for a Day, I would do something with the school district through TTUSD and open it up, get the OPA high school program. I've talked with the superintendent of education. It's a longer pull, but I think it would be huge. And I mean, that would be a major incentive. And I think it's something we could do. I will take that for action if there's consensus to doing something like that. But it would take time. Yeah. It would take a lot of time.
Boys and Girls
Not
Club.
we could turn on the dime fast. Doing something with the school district, what I've learned through curriculum, is a multi-year process.
Hit up Boys and Girls Club.
We could look at doing something like that too.
we need to be very cognizant of liability. Bad things aren't
Yep.
going to happen, but if they do,
Right. Yep.
so.
Those are the highlights of AFCON reports. The Fly Safe recap is in there, and ops and comments. Generally speaking, last year to this year is eerily similar. We had a few more flight operations. Last year was 31,000 and change. This year we're just a hair above 33,000. In terms of comments, we're about the same. There's no, statistically speaking, there's no real change. Both our flight footprint and our noise comment footprint between 24 and 25 is eerily similar.
I have comments about the report per se.
Okay.
I have two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
One is the steam. How is the status of the steam building that we're
Yes.
building?
So we talked with the contractor. There could be an option where we might be able to get one here in potentially March, depending on snowfall. There was an opening. We told them to proceed. We're working with Gray Electric to get the electric fixtures finished up. If not, it'll probably be the end of April. So
That's great.
It's good news.
The other one is the above in the Fly Safe where we're the TBM Pilots Clinic. And the, last year there was the one done for the Cirrus that cost, we paid $15,000 for worked out to $576 per pilot that was used. And just a TBM is a $5.5 million plane, and just being cognizant of
Yeah.
property
What-
tax dollars.
Yeah, well, we have talked about with that program, talking with Mountain Lion and Kevin Sloan, who's actually one of the more experienced TBM instructor pilots in the United States, and talking with one of the larger TBM sales companies that also has a flight safety program, who's doing some type of risk management where you wouldn't be flying as much as potentially creating some videos in a simulator with the approaches here, and talking about the challenges of an exceptionally capable aircraft in a single pilot aircraft with somebody that probably is not a professional pilot, meaning they're not flying for pay every day and it's their livelihood in this challenging terrain, and doing like a day-long kind of, when I say flight clinic, it wouldn't be touching the sky, but we'd have some experts, we'd have video from simulators talking about approaches and the gotchas with the icing, something along that lines of a very senior level, super high value add risk management seminar is what we've been talking about.
Okay, and in terms of how much we pay as compared to the users pay?
Sure.
There will be some.
I think it would be in the initial conversations, it'd be really cheap. I think it would be a matter of having some folks fly out here. I think it's something we could probably do for a couple $1,000s.
Okay, that's okay. Then, and just to push on my point, that's also a place when you're going through that, this is your footprint.
Right.
Just at
Absolutely.
the fair thing, just one piece of information.
And every time we do this, I'd encourage you to come to the clinics. Director Diamond's been to a number of them. David Van Quest, we have their attention. And he weaves in the things we care about during the high value ads. He puts it in, and it's not a finger pointing, but it's people asking questions done in a really positive way. And we would do the same thing with that.
Thank you.
Any questions, any more questions for Jeff? Okay, finance?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, thanks. Liza was calling in at conference. Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Great. All right. Sorry I can't be there all. I'm in some CalPERS training in the Bay Area. So let's see. The first thing on the agenda is the Finance Administration, this report here. So you have it. I'm assuming you've read through it, so I won't go over it in complete detail. But if we're looking at FBO revenues, the bottom line of the fuel is per budget net revenue, net fuel revenue by about 250K. So again, it's hard to look at gross versus cost of goods sold and all that. So the bottom line of all that is we're better than budget by 250. The other balance of all the FBO activity is that we are ahead of budget by $160,000, and that's really across the board. It's all the ramp fees, landing fees, overnight tie downs, that type of thing. We're under budget with hangar nightly rentals and auto parking, but that's it as far as the FBO. We're over budget overall by 160 for the balance of all the FBO stuff. Hangar revenues, we are right about on budget, and we're 200 grand over 2024. The verbiage, the reasoning behind all that, it hasn't really changed over the past few months, so that those reasonings have remained the same, but budget overall, we're right close to budget. Other revenues, we are just over $1 million under budgeted other revenues, but 4.6 million ahead of 24. That number's crazy looking, but it's because of the change to the timing and the recordation of the property tax in 2024. It was changed to be recorded at just the time of receipt instead of doing all these accruals and reversals and so forth. So that's why we're so much different than 24 for property taxes. We are under budget to 1.4 million for the grant, FAA grant that was declined. We do have an additional small property tax deposit in December to round out all of the property tax numbers in 25, and then the interest income for the year, we're better than budget by about 100 grand. So total revenues, we have 18 million versus a budget of almost 21. But those numbers also include the FAA grant, and they include the gross fuel cost. So again, what we mostly care about is the net, get back there, the net revenues. And if you take away, we're looking at the gross profit. So if you take away the FAA grant, we're actually better than budget by about 740K. So that's the revenue side of things. There's a little bit of fuel analysis there, just, graphs sort of showing year over year. If you look down to wages, we're better than budget by about 280 grand, and we're better than 24. Same thing with the payroll taxes and employee benefits, better than budget. We're a little bit over 2024. Again, the verbiage and the reasoning behind that hasn't changed over the past few months, so that verbiage is about the same. For operating expenses, we're about almost $1 million under budget. There's a couple of big things in there. There's the property insurance, which has been the same story for the last few months. Telecommunications upgrade, the FAA contributed $120,000 against the telecommunication upgrade in 25, so that was great. We're under budget in a lot of things, computer support, flight data tracking, and so forth, and that's operating G&A expense. Repair and maintenance, we're under budget about 70 grand, under 24, and then we're just under sort of across the board in that sort of category of expenses, and that's been the same story all year long as well. Community benefit, we're under budget a bit in this category overall. We did see a lot of year-end bills come through for the fire mitigation stuff. We had a lot of folks just sort of wait to prepare all their invoices until the end of the year. So in December, we have an expense of almost $1 million in there, and it's all for fire, but we're still under budget in that category. So bottom line, bottom line net income, we have about $2.5 million showing right now as net income. We had a budget of just over $1 million, and we have $36,000 spent in reserve expenses. This number, all these numbers I'm giving you in this report are all preliminary. I have not finalized the 2025 financials yet. I've spoken with the auditors. I've pinky promised them a deadline of 2/9 for myself. I want to get them the final numbers within the next 2 weeks. There are a few things I need to work on. I'm afraid, I maybe made some mistakes throughout the year or something. Once I need to go back and sort of run reports for the full year instead of month to month and just make sure all my buckets look right. I just want to sort of triple check everything since it's my first year. So I think these numbers should be close, but they're not final. So just I want to make sure that's a caveat everybody's aware of. So just a few notes that budget you have in front of you. I've been working with Mike Daniel on that just to finalize that to make it pretty for public consumption. So that if you see anything in there that you believe needs to be changed or looks funky, just let me know. We've had a couple of iterations of that. We've proofread it quite a bit, but if you see anything, please just give me a heads up. This is the final budget as it was approved. So again, like y'all talked about earlier, our forecast was originally done based on the September numbers and then estimating throughout the end of the year. And of course, with it being my first year, I didn't know what's to come, in the next 4 or 5 months as actuals coming in. So it was, again, best guess on the forecast. We're ending up better than we forecasted, which is, hopefully good news. Cassell, we have sent them the termination letter. That is to go away in 3 days. We did download all the historical data, and we're keeping it right now in our file server. On the file server, we don't know exactly where the last home of that information will be. We're trying to put it somewhere where it is sort of easily accessible, easily readable, should we need it. But we haven't found the best solution for that yet. But anyway, we got the information out. Cassell is going to be done. We've made our last payment, and that is great news. We're working with AeroSimple and NetSuite. I finally, after a lot of hair pulling, am getting NetSuite to move. So we've had a lot of meetings this past 2 weeks on what they need to do for us in AR so we can get rid of ABRM and move everything forward. So a caveat in this, the bottom verbiage here, I said ABRM leasing software is officially turning off 131. We are bumping that goal 2 more months just to make sure. I thought we could put everything in AeroSimple until NetSuite was done, and it's just a sort of a really big extra task to get it to where it's going to go finally. So to save myself and my team a lot of extra work, we're keeping ABRM for 2 more months so we can do our billing out of there until we have NetSuite good and ready to go. So we're actively working on it, but we're not quite done with that piece yet. I did sign a new broker of record for the workers' comp. No real expectation to change in the pricing. I believe the carrier might end up being the same. That I believe the renewal is 4/1. It's 4/1 or 5/1. But I'm just hopeful the customer service side of things will be much better. It's a gentleman in partnership with the Alero Group, which is the group that administers our health insurance and benefits and all that. So, sort of consolidating the insurance side of things, which is great. Sweeps are set up with Wells, average rate of 3.7. 2026 audit, I did speak with them. We're starting to do some selection testing, so we're doing some preliminary work with them. Again, I don't expect to send them the final numbers until February 9th. But they can have our, for example, check run for the entire year and do selections that they want to just spot check in that. So they've started to do that process, and we're responding to their request ongoing as of last week. So that's my update for the most part.
Any questions for Liza? No? Thanks for that, Liza. Good job. Okay, do we have any public comment on any of these reports? Seeing no, we'll move on to item 13, future agenda priorities and meeting management.
We had a lot of changes today for follow-up. So when we look at the rolling agenda for February, March, I think we have a lot of adjustments to make following this meeting. I know the hangar rent study is something I want to push till March because we want to give some more immediate attention to our airport office building negotiations and our library contract development per board guidance today, and I think that's going to take quite a bit of time. So I'd like to push out the hangar rent study until March. We also, under the action items for February, we have a number of recurring engagement agreements, master service agreements for our engineering firm, both landside and airside, our aviation services contract for planning. Those are all multi-year agreements that are coming due this next, I believe it's March, actually. We need to begin the process of those. I don't know that they'll be ready going through an RFP process or RFQ process by the February meeting, so some of those may be moving back a month to March as well. But I'm sensitive, and I work with the board president, I don't want to overload March based on a workshop now and several other items that have been slipped into March. So I'm thinking the main focus in February may only be if we can work with the wildfire mitigation and fire departments to begin coming up with an estimate of what projects are relevant for 2026 for that continuing action of working with the fire districts to fund wildfire mitigation. The board's still supportive of that. I will begin a meeting series with the fire chiefs and community service districts that have fire departments to bring back in February initial concept of what 2026 might look like for wildfire mitigation is a primary action item probably for February. The remaining elements will probably be slipped to March and April, and I need to develop that a little bit more.
Questions for Rob on that?
So I guess this is where I should talk about that other workshop of the vacant land and the reserve, you know, and it's showing happening in February for vacant land use plan. So that would be another workshop that could be in April, kind of touching the strat plan quarterly. I would like that we work towards that, and if everybody's better with April, should we set some date for that as well, since we have everybody with their calendars? So Tuesday.
Coincidentally, both those time periods are also not good for me, except on the night of the board meeting.
So something in early April?
So the land use one could be part of a board meeting, a regular agenda item as part of a board meeting in April if we don't have other things filling up the agenda. So that could be a solution for the April timeframe for the land development piece. The quarterly review of the strategic plan would be something I would brief quarterly as part of the normal board meeting process.
I was thinking of, you know, Greg's, you know, question about how reserves and how we do that.
Oh, right,
And that's
yeah.
more of a, you know, a workshop.
Right.
And that could be something that's done as well as vacant land use. This is,
Right.
those are.
And we could focus on but thank you for the reminder on the budget one. That's something we could focus a couple months ahead of the budget process, actually, early on in that process to provide guidance to the budget process for next year, if that makes sense.
What do you think, Greg? I think.
So that'd be around August timeframe.
I think August would work. I mean, I'm going to take y'all's recommendation.
You know, I think a lot gets done in workshops, and, you know, in August, we're going to be starting to do budget, and this is.
So let's do it before the existing April meeting. Let's do it in the morning or whatever. Let's,
Like on the 21st or something,
on the 22nd. We're here anyway.
to do
A morning workshop
a morning workshop.
before
on-
the board meeting.
For budget and land?
For whatever
Or
Mary
one?
wants,
Okay, yeah.
whatever that is.
I very likely will not be in person.
You won't be
On
here.
the 22nd. I will be calling in.
Okay, then I would like to do it when you can be present. So,
Then it would need to be
Before the May meeting.
yeah,
so it could be in May.
yeah,
I mean,
let's,
the day's already crushed, so we might as well do it, you know, start at 1 o'clock or something.
May, we're doing it May 20th is the board meeting, we've decided now
Right.
instead of.
May 20th would work well.
May 20th is a board meeting.
Yeah.
So morning would be this workshop
Board meeting's on the 27th.
Yes, thank you, May 27th. Some of the dates have been shifted.
No, it's not.
Yeah, we have 11-day voting center that they approved.
That's the
so-
election.
And then
We
they
approved
approved May 20th as their new board meeting.
Oh, right, so we need to update
Who
the
they?
agenda, right, okay, thank you.
You did on the consent calendar.
So we have a number of election issues with this room, and so the consent calendar had some
Calendar?
adjustments to the dates that are in the rolling agenda, so.
So doing a workshop in the morning to talk about,
On the 20th.
Yeah, fine.
Does that work
They
for you,
approved
Kat?
it.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, that works for you, that works for you?
May 20th.
May 20th.
2026.
We're
For
here.
land and budget concepts, right?
and
okay.
budget. Okay.
And then I'm guessing Josh will know by then if, what the FPPC has said on,
Yeah, I would anticipate, and I'll follow up on that.
thank you.
I'm actually not sure that is even an issue anymore, given your current status. We can talk about it.
Good.
I vote yes that we adjourn. I'm going to use the restroom.
Do we have any public comment on future agenda priorities and meeting management? Staff and board member conference attendance reports. Do we have anything?
Not until Liza gets back from her conference.
Right, that's right. Okay, so nothing.
Do we want a summary of all the direction we've given to staff? At some point, we've asked for that in the past. You know, it's like, we've given you direction to deal with the lift, the
Do we have any
library.
public comment on staff and board member conference attendance reports? No, okay. Do you want to read back what?
I mean, I feel like maybe we've gotten summaries
We-
each step along the way. I don't feel it's necessary to
Okay.
redo all of them again.
I agree.
Yeah, I think those have been captured well at each agenda item on film, so I think
Okay.
we have a good reference for each of those agenda items. Thank you.
Okay, do we have, we are going to go into closed session after this. Do we have any public comment on that closed session? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
No motions required.
We're
We're
not
going into closed
adjourning.
we'll actually adjourn when we come out of closed session.
Okay,
Yeah.
then we don't need a
Thank you.
motion. Then we are
No motions.
Okay.
in closed session.